Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at the Gamemax Spark Micro ATX case, now available in white. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we're taking a look at the Gamemax Spark Micro ATX case, now available in white. There's actually three colours available of this. There is a black, a grey, and this is obviously the white case. Now this is a Micro ATX case, a very nice form factor. I like it a lot, and in fact we have done a review on the black version of this, and also we've done a build on it, so if you want to check either of those videos out, we'll put those links in the video description below so you can check those out and see what it's all about. But today's video we're going to go through, do a bit of a teardown, see what it's all about, go through the connections and the options, all that kind of good stuff, and come back with my final thoughts at the end. I'll be honest with you, if you do want to kind of skip all that and you just want to know what my final thoughts are, I like it, I really do. It's a great little case, tons of flexibility. It's going to be one of those things which not everybody is going to like. Obviously, having a solid front panel isn't everybody's cup of tea, and having tempered glass on both sides, again, isn't everyone's cup of tea, and potentially the price may be a little bit prohibitive depending where you are in the world. If you can shop on AliExpress, you can actually pick this up for somewhere in the region of about £30, but the postage is a little bit on the horrendous side. But if you're in the UK, then you can pick this up for somewhere in the region of about £60 here from various retailers. And obviously, when there's special offers on, etc., you may find it a little bit cheaper. But overall, I think for £60, definitely worth the money. The build quality is excellent. And if you've had your eyes on one of the Jonsbo cases, such as the D40, which I believe this is very similar to, or the D30, I'm not entirely sure of the exact model name, but if you've looked at one of those cases previously, and you kind of like it, but you want to spend a little bit less money, then this could be right up your street. So let's tick off some of the key features of this particular case. So we've got up to 6 fans supported in here. So you can put 3 120mm fans in the bottom section. You can then put another 2 fans in the top, either 120s or 140s. And on the back, you've got another option for another 120. So 6 fans in total if you wanted to, depending on your configuration of 120s, 140s. You can also put 2 140s on the bottom as well. So if you wanted 2 140s on the bottom, 2 140s on the top, and a 120 on the back, then yeah. There's lots of flexibility, and when it comes to radiator support as well, you can put a 240 or 280 in the top and also in the bottom, although 360s are not supported, even though it will take 3 120mm fans, there just isn't enough clearance for a 360mm radiator in that bottom section. And also potentially you might not want to, because obviously this is Micro ATX, you are going to have to put a graphics card in here potentially, so yeah, you may get a little bit close for comfort down in that basement section. If you're not looking at doing water cooling, then when it comes to air cooling, this will support up to a whopping 168mm cooler, which actually is pretty decent in terms of what is available on Micro ATX. Generally, we tend to top out somewhere in the region of about 160mm, so you've got a little bit of extra wiggle room there for slightly larger tower coolers. When it comes to graphics cards, now depending on what configuration you go with this and what power supply you're using, because of this slightly unusual placement for the power supply, which is up front and is actually basically in this section here, depending on what size your power supply is, that is going to really dictate what kind of graphics card you can put in here. So at the best possible characteristics, so say for instance you're using possibly an SFX power supply or a very short stubby power supply, you can get a graphics card in here of up to around about 355mm. If you're using a traditional ATX power supply, maybe a slightly longer one, up to and including 220mm in length, then you can put a 305mm graphics card in here, which again is still pretty big considering the form factor. When it comes to storage, you've actually got plenty of room there as well. So for up to 4 drives, you can have combinations of either 3 traditional 2.5-inch SSDs plus a 3.5-inch hard drive, which can be mounted in the bottom section, or you can go with 4 2.5-inch SSDs. The overall dimensions of this, we're looking at 403mm long, 204mm wide, and 337mm in height. Over and above those dimensions, we've got some other key features such as excellent ventilation and also filtration with a fully filtered bottom section and top section using a really nice fine mesh. And because we're using a vertical airflow pattern, so air is being drawn in from underneath and being exited from the top, that is the natural way that air normally goes, especially warm air tends to rise. So that is going to help cooling, and obviously depending on what you've got in there, if you've got a big graphics card, then all the air is going to go straight up past the graphics card, then up through the rest of the system and out. I found previously building in this, it works very, very well indeed. So that's the key features out of the way. Let's take a look at the case and see what it's all about. So we'll start off with the front panel. As you can see, this is in white. In fact, this is the white version, but this is kind of like the only section on here which is white in any way, shape or form. So effectively all they've done really is just change over the front panel. So if you like the design of the other versions, then yeah, this is essentially exactly the same. We've still got our nice little power button there with an illumination around the outside. You also got a combo headset jack, which I'm personally not that in favour of. I would prefer to have seen a separate dedicated earphone and mic jacks, but down to the individual. Underneath that, you've got a USB Type-C port and a USB 3.0. Now the Type-C port is actually on a USB 3.0 header, so don't worry if you're buying a motherboard, which is Micro ATX and doesn't have a dedicated Type-C connector on the board. It's fine, don't worry, it'll plug into the USB 3.0. Obviously you're not going to get those quite stellar speeds that you would normally get with a Type-C connection, but for most people just plugging things in, charging, etc. it's going to be absolutely fine. For those of you wondering about the actual texture of the front panel, it isn't a gloss white, so it is white, but there is a kind of like a matte finish to it. It's not exactly going to pick up dirt, more of a satin I would say, but if you're looking at putting maybe decals on here, then if you've got a glossy decal, it might look a little bit odd. So let's get on and start with the teardown. So this is going to be in a slightly unusual way because you have to take it apart in a, well, not a unique way, but a slightly different way. So normally you just undo some panels on the side and pull the glass off, but you can't in this particular configuration. We do have this vented section at the top here with a nice grille finish on it. And what we need to do is to spin this round, and on the back there are 2 thumb screws. So just remove those and then slide this panel backwards and it unlocks, and then you can lift it away from the rest of the chassis. And as you can see, there is a really nice nylon mesh in there going on. So nice and easy if you want to clean this, take it off, yeah, very easy access to this top section. So to actually get inside, this is a little bit unfortunate. There aren't thumb screws on the glass side panels. There is a good reason for that, and that is because the top section with the filtration is actually so low and touches this that if you put thumb screws on there, you wouldn't be able to put the top back on. So I kind of get why they've done this. I potentially would probably just leave the screws out just so ease of access, but entirely up to you. The glass just lifts up and out, and as you can see, there is a very, very slight smoke tint to the glass. Very, very slight indeed, almost clear. So then we get to look inside, and first of all, there is a accessories bag. I'll quickly go through that. It's not the most exciting of accessories bag, but you've got all the usual stuff there. So you've got a bunch of cable ties to help with cable management. There's also an instruction guide to how to put it all together. There is a Velcro strap, which doesn't appear to be branded, so that's quite nice. You've also got all of your mounting accessories, screws, etc. Including, you've got some rubber grommets there as well, and longer screws, so if you are mounting hard disk drives or SATA SSDs in here, then you can put anti-vibration dampeners on there, should you wish to. Also included is something which I haven't seen before, and that is a Gamemax Only for Gamers sticker, which is one of those kind of 3D ones which you could stick on the front if you wanted to, or potentially a Mike's Unboxing sticker. So with that out of the way, now we can see inside a little bit better. So on the bottom there, you've got that filtration, you've got room in the back for a 120mm fan. You've also got room here for up to D30, which is kind of like a slightly larger version of Micro ATX. You can put in ITX if you want to. Sadly, not ATX support, although that is potentially going to be happening. There is going to be a kind of like a Spark Pro version, which will be ATX. So do keep your eyes out for that if you're interested in this type of form factor or layout. This section here, this bar, is designed for 2 things really. It's one for covering up cables which are coming out of the power supply, which will be mounted here, and also you can mount drives to it. So if you want to show off your SSDs, you can attach them there, 2 of them, and you've also got cutouts top and bottom to allow your SATA and power cables to come through. Taking it out, pretty easy to do. There's a screw at the bottom, screw at the top, and one in the middle, and then you can remove that panel for much easier access. With the last screw undone, you can remove this panel, and as you see, it's actually pretty good, even though it is relatively thin. It's actually quite sturdy, a little bit of flex to it, but nothing too outrageous. And also it does have a function of also supporting the chassis a little bit as well. Not that it needs to, because all of this is made out of pretty decent steel. Okay, so looking inside, it's actually quite cavernous in there. You have got room in there for the larger of the Micro ATX motherboards, which I think is called Micro ATX D or D80X or something along those lines. Of course, if you want to, ITX boards in there, absolutely fine, no problems at all. Usual kind of deal. I really like the form factor of this. It's actually quite small. If you think of other Micro ATX cases, such as things like Gamemax's own Icon or even the Kamikaze, still quite imposing towers, whereas this, I feel, is pretty compact, and actually you can still fit in pretty much a similar amount of fans in there, which is excellent. So on the bottom, got this nice mesh, full mesh along the entire bottom. You can, if you want to, like I said, put 3 120mm fans in the bottom, although if you do decide to mount a 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drive in this bottom section where it bolts through, that is going to obviously limit that last fan, so you might want to go with 2 140s or 2 120s. This section here is where a power supply goes. I've got some B-roll of a SFX power supply in this position, which you can if you want to give yourself a little bit more wiggle room. Again, entirely up to you. If you want to keep costs down, then an ATX power supply is probably the way to go, but either way is absolutely fine. Also got a nice bit of head clearance on the top, so between the actual top of the motherboard and the top of here, you've got enough room in there for a radiator and some fans as well. A good sort of 50 or 60 mil there, so you should be absolutely fine. 280 mil AIOs might be a little bit more cramped, but a 120 is going to be fine, and also you can then bring it out a little bit further with an offset mount. A couple of pass-throughs in there as well, so a couple at the top there for fans, which would normally be there, sort of CPU fans or RGB fans. EPS connector in this top section here, and also there's some pass-throughs there for your main 24-pin connector, and things like USBs, all that kind of good stuff. And talking of USBs, let's take a look at the connectivity. So, like I said earlier, the front Type-C connector and Type-A connector are combined into one USB 3.0 header, which pretty much every board's got these days, so that's going to be absolutely fine. You've then got your HD audio connection, and then there's a nice simple front I/O panel connection, which has got your hard drive LED, power LED, and also a power switch. No reset switch on this one. So if you are thinking of maybe getting some kind of add-on addressable RGB connections, or one of those hubs which relies on a reset switch, then yeah, you may need to think carefully about that bit. Also along the top is the power cable, which is pre-routed. So there is a kind of kettle lead style there, which goes in and just plugs into the top of your power supply, which then takes you through to the back. So let's take another look at the back. So we've got the 120mm fan section here, I/O section, and there is your power input. So you plug your power into there, it then passes that through the back channel and then into the power supply at the front. Got a nice little setup. At the bottom there, got 4 removable PCI Express blanking plates, all of which are ventilated as well, which is going to be helpful. So if you are thinking of maybe doing a negative pressure setup, so a couple of fans on the top, nothing on the bottom, the fans will pull out and obviously you'll pull air in through any ventilated area. So yeah, it's all pretty good. Little Gamemax spark sticker down there, and also you've got the screw there for adjusting the side plate. So if you want to take the screws out and fix things in, then you certainly can do. So taking another look at the top, as you can see, we have got that offset mount. So if you want to put 120mm fans in, you can do, or you've got a little bit of extra gap there. So for 140s, again, potentially you might want to put a 240 or 280mm rad in there. The 280 might give you a little bit of problem, but at least with the 240 you have got that little offset, so if you've got slightly raised RAM or VRM heat sinks, it should clear those pretty easily. Also, access to the top, power supply is going to be in here. Yeah, it's all pretty good. And also, obviously, if you want to take the back panel off, you've also got access to the screws on this side, which we'll take those off now. Although saying that, before we do, let's take a look at the back panel. So, sweaty fingers. You can see this is a tempered glass side panel as well, even though it's kind of on the back side, which most people probably won't ever see, but it is glass anyway. Something I feel they've missed a trick here is the fact that, as you can see, it is a black mirror effectively. I would have loved to have seen this been white, same colour as the front, just to give it a little bit more white, and also you might see a little bit come through from the inside. I have scratched away some of the coating on the glass, and it does appear that it will come off. Not easily, so you may need some sort of paint stripper or paint remover, or potentially if you wanted a little bit of extra white look on there, because it's tempered glass, you could quite easily get some of that sticky back plastic or Fablon, whatever they call it, and put it on there just to make it a white panel should you wish to, and also potentially it will protect the glass as well. Taking the panel off, same as the other side, so once the screws are removed, just lift up and you can pull it out of the way. As you can see, this is a kind of mirrored finish. They've put protection on it just in case anyway, and you can possibly see just in this corner here, I have scratched off some of the paint there so you can actually see through it. So it's probably not very easy to see on camera, probably easier from that way, but you can see there is a little bit there. So potentially you could remove the black off there and make it white, but whether it's worth it, I don't know. It's also quite a nice contrast as well if you want a little bit of a monochrome build. So with that out of the way, we can see what is going on in the back here. So you can see that cable which is channeled through there. This is going to be your routing method for your EPS connection, maybe fan cables, radiator fans, stuff, all that kind of good stuff. Massive cutout here to gain access to the back of the CPU cooler. So whether you're going for an Intel build, which generally tends to have slightly bigger back plates because of that kind of square nature of the heatsink, how it all works. AM4s, AM5 is going to be absolutely fine. There isn't a great deal of room to maneuver down here for cable management, which actually it doesn't really need it, because most of the cable management is going to be down here underneath the power supply or trailed around in this section here. Although, having said that, there is another mount there for an SSD. So depending which side you have it on, if you have the SSD on this side, obviously that's going to take up some of your cable management room, but you could quite easily put it on the other side next to the power supply, which is a little bit on the cramped side, but certainly is doable. And being that SSDs don't generally get very warm, it should be absolutely fine. Other than that, there's a few tie down points which are on the sides there, so for cable management, etc. I didn't have any real problems with it. The only thing you may find is with some SFX power supplies, because the cable dimensions are generally a little bit smaller, trying to get an SFX EPS connector to go from the power supply, which is going to be in here, through this hole, then up, then along, and then into your motherboard, might be a little bit challenging. So do check the cable lengths on your power supplies just to make sure you're going to have enough room to get along there. So let's take a look at the bottom of the case. So you've got 4 feet on there with rubber or foam sections on the bottom to absorb vibration. Kind of like a steel or brushed aluminium effect to the legs, which is quite a nice little touch. You've got a full mesh along the bottom there, which you can take off if you want to increase your airflow. You've also got some rubber grommets there, which are designed for attaching your hard drives or SSDs. So there you go, there you have it. There is the Gamemax Spark Micro ATX in white, albeit not much of it, but certainly I think it actually looks really good. I do like the design of this. I am somewhat biased. In terms of Micro ATX cases, there's not really a great deal on the market which really does kind of give you a little bit of creativity and flexibility in the way that this does. Now, obviously there is a little bit of a price tag attached to it, but like I said earlier, and I keep on harping on about, if you're looking at something like the Jonsbo D30 or D40, whichever model it is, or other models which are kind of very similar based on this chassis, this generally seems to be the cheapest out there. And especially, like I said, if you can get it from AliExpress, I think it's £31 plus shipping, which is insane. But obviously, depending where you live in the world, the shipping may be completely prohibitive. Unfortunately for us here in the United Kingdom, the shipping is crazy. It's something like £70. So it makes a £30 case into a £100 case. So you'd be better off going to somewhere like Amazon, Gamemax's own site, or Scan, overclockers, all those kinds of things here in the UK. But please do let me know in the comment section what the prices are like for this in your neck of the woods, if it is available, that is. I know Gamemax isn't available completely globally, but they are starting to spread into new territories, so please do let us know what the prices are like in your local areas. I think that's going to wrap this one up. I really like it. There will be a build being done in it. Actually, ironically, it's going to be tonight, which is our Christmas Eve stream, which is hence why I'm wearing this. Yeah, long story. Anyway, so if you want to join us for our streams, we do those on a Saturday night at 8 PM UK time. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome to. If you want to find out more about the Gamemax Spark, we'll put some links in the video description, and obviously by the time this video comes out, the stream will have been done, so you can go ahead and watch how the build went and see what kind of troubles we got into and how well it all went. So, I've rather it on for way too long. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, hit the subscribe button and the chime notification to be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.